Okay, page 70, number 9B. Let's take a look at that one. We have 6x squared minus 23x plus 20. Okay, again, it doesn't say how to solve. So if it doesn't say, you can use the quadratic if you're more comfortable with it. But I want to show you, we may as well practice our factoring because they might very well say solve by factoring. So how do you factor a trinomial when that leading number here is not a 1? Well, it's right. It's this technique here of what two numbers multiply to give. It's not that n number, right? It's this, right? It's what two numbers multiply to give, in this case 120, yet add to give that middle number, right, which is negative 23. And again, there's a systematic way of doing that. Just take your calculator and go 120 divided by 1. Can you play with the fact, with 120 and 1 to get 23? No. 120 divided by 2, which is 60. Can you play with a 2 and a 60 to get that? 120 divided by 3, which is 40. How about 3 and 40? No. And you keep going down your list, and finally, when you get to 120 divided by 8, you get 15. So 8 and 15, well, we're going to play with our signs here, right? Because, 8 times 15, yes, gives 120, but it doesn't add to give negative 23. However, if I make them both negatives, I'm good to go. Okay? So how do I factor this? You rewrite it 6x squared. It's called the method of decomposition. You're rewriting that middle term as the sum of those two that you just found here. So negative 8x, negative 15x. Is that okay here? And then I'm just going to continue with my plus 20 equals 0. Okay, so then what you do is it's called factor by grouping. So I look in here, what's common that I can pull out of there? A 2 and an x, leaving me with 3x minus 4. Okay, what can I factor out of there? I can factor out a 5 out of there. And because if that number here is a negative, you always factor out the negative. So I'm left with x minus, sorry, I'm left not with x, I'm left with 3x. Okay, so I'm left with, let me just erase that. I am left with a 3x minus 4. And listen, you made a mistake if these two brackets are not identical. You absolutely made a mistake, and just you might want to check your work. So I look at that thing as a whole, and what's identical that I could pull out? What I just highlighted. So it's 3x minus 4 that comes out, and what's left inside the next bracket is the 2x that's there and the minus 5 that's there. Okay, so there you go. Your trinomial is fully factored. You can check your work. If you were to expand this, 6x squared is there. I get negative 15x, take away 8x does give me negative 23x, and negative 4 times negative 5 does give me positive 20. Okay, so what are the roots, right? Like what value of x could you possibly put there to make this bracket 0? I mean, you can just take it because, take it and set it to 0, because that's what we're after, right? We're asking ourselves, when will this ever be 0? Well, set it to 0 and solve. So 3x equals 4, x equals 4/3. Okay, do the same for this one. Let's take it and let's set it to 0 and solve. 2x equals 5, x equals 5 on 2. I mean, the bottom line is, the trick is this, okay? You basically always take this number on that number, opposite sign. 5 on 2 with a plus. Okay? Same thing here. I take this number on that number, opposite sign. There it is, 4 on 3. Okay? So that concludes 9b.